Hello, friends. Professor MCal here again. Very happy to make this presentation for you today. This one is about Baal, the demon god of the elite. Before we proceed, I just want to thank the many people that have subscribed recently. I really appreciate that. This one's for you. Thank you very much. We've also had some really nice conversation lately. I've been trying to get back to people as soon as I can. Hopefully you've seen some of my responses. Please keep them coming. I really enjoy it, and I appreciate your interest. Also want to give a shout out to my esteemed colleague and engineer, Master Mook. He is at Mookie's Tarot Zone on YouTube. That's MOOKIES Tarot Zone. Check him out. You will like it. So today we're going to talk about Baal or Baal. I'll use the word Baal. It's a little bit easier. The demon god of the elite, and you know who I'm talking about when I'm talking about the elite. I'm talking about the billionaires of the world. I'm also talking about the people who control the billionaires, who control the governments of Western civilization. Many governments in the East as well. Talking about the cult of the Canaanites, as I like to refer to them. You can see some of my former presentations, Cult of the Bull, Saturn Cube, etc., and so forth, where I have talked about this a bit before. So we're going to do a little bit of review, but I'm going to try to put it in a new context to further your understanding of this demon god and who worships this god still today and how this is still in play in the world. The world has essentially been worshiping Saturn for thousands of years, and Baal or Baal is just another face of this ancient god. Who is Baal? So I'm going to read a little bit of this straight up. Baal is biblical Hebrew, usually spelled B-A-A-L in English, is a northwestern Semitic title and symbolically meaning master or lord that is used for various gods who were patrons of cities in the Levant and Asia Minor. Asia Minor usually refers to what is now Turkey. We're going to talk about where the Levant is. Some of you already know this. If not, we're going to review it a little bit as well. The information on this page is pretty good, although it's not the end-all, be-all. Baal can refer to any god and even to human officials. In some texts, it's used for Hadad, a god of the rain, thunder, fertility, and agriculture. Baal is essentially the god of fertility and storms. Since only priests were allowed to utter his divine name, Hadad, Baal was commonly used. Baal refers to Hadad, the Lord over the assembly of gods on the holy mount of heaven, but rather refers to any member of local spirit deities worshipped as cult images. Some people might say that Yahweh is actually Baal or a derivative of Baal as well. The Bible, as we know, is the Bi-Bull, the two bulls. This goes back to the bull god of the ancient world and the ancient pagan worship of the sun and the moon. In the the dark version of this, which is I would call it the negative sun, etc., and so forth. Next slide. What is the Levant? The Levant was a region in the Middle East in the Old World. It encompasses what is now Syria, Lebanon, Palestine and Israel, Jordan, the Sinai Peninsula, and parts of western Iraq. It's quite a big region. When the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria was in full swing during the Obama administration, of course, the Islamic State was a pet project of that administration and of the other people. I'm thinking of the Clintons that worked for this administration. They essentially made this thing happen and promoted its development for their nefarious purposes, for their never-ending wars in the Middle East, which did cease for the most part, not completely, but certainly to a high degree, higher than any other president that I've ever seen under the Trump administration, which is now reemerging slowly in the Middle East and Afghanistan and Iraq, etc., and so forth. There was no suicide bombings in Iraq, actually, for the last 2 years of the Trump presidency, and as soon as the current president took office, they had one on the day of, which was ceremonial and sacrificial, in my opinion. This area was once home, I got a little typo there, sorry, was once home to many tribes and peoples who were pagan. This is a map of the Levant. I chose this one because it is simple. It shows the area that was the Levant and where it is now. This demon god was not exclusive just to this area, but also Asia Minor, Turkey, as you can see above. This is where the Canaanites are from. They developed into what was known, who were known, people that were known as the Phoenicians, and then eventually this spread around North Africa and was absorbed into the Roman Empire. I've talked before about biblical references, and this is something that interests me a great deal. Some of you have brought some things like this up, and I encourage you to do so. Please enlighten me if you're able with some of this information. Ask questions, or please do your best to teach me something as well, because I'm here to be a teacher and also a student. I'm here to learn from all of you as well. I've talked about the Canaanites before. If you've seen my previous videos, then you're probably pretty well aware of who they are, and that the Canaanites are in control of the world today. They are the founders and controllers of the first cities of the world and commerce. I cannot underestimate the influence of these people throughout the history of the world. The Canaanites worshipped the golden calf in the Bible, and the story goes that this angered the God of the Bible. And then there's a long story of the Israelites, expulsion, the 7 plagues, all of this kind of stuff. There are some people who think that the God of the Bible is actually Baal or Saturn himself, which, in my opinion, it's likely a composite that coalesced over time. However, I must mention that the Bible is not bullshit. As many of you know, it is a complex and exceedingly old document. But my advice, if that you come across a book that's 2,000 years old, or 2,500 years old, 2,800 years old, there's probably a reason that it's still around today. So my advice is to read it. There are different ways of reading the Bible, and these methods are known as hermeneutics, which I did a lot of work on when I was going for my PhD, which I did not complete. I instead got a second master's degree, but we'll talk about that another day. Okay, so here we've got some things that are straight out of the Bible. I'm going to do some reading right off of this text right off of this slide here, straight up. The land of Canaan was devoted to the worship of Baal. Canaan is named after Cain, from Cain and Abel, who murdered his brother because he was jealous. The Semitic word Baal means Lord or Master, and the Canaanites believed that Baal was in absolute control over nature and over people. They believed that the only God who was superior to Baal was his father El, or El Elyon, which would mean God Most High. Anything with El or El has an Arabic origin, but Baal was the principal deity of the land. It was he who was in charge of the rain and the weather, fertility. Man's survival was dependent on Baal's provision. And it basically goes something like, the earth would be dry, and then the rains would come down and fertilize the land, and then things would grow and become alive and develop, etc. Here's something straight out of the Bible, Joshua 6:26. One may question that those ancient enemies of Israel were as evil as the Bible claims they were, but as even a superficial glance at Canaanite religion alone ably demonstrates their iniquity. Base sex worship was prevalent as it is now, and religious prostitution even commanded. Human sacrifice was common as it is now, although it's not done on top of a pyramid with an obsidian blade. It's done in the form of warfare, false flag attacks, death of people in Hollywood, mass shootings, all of this kind of terrible stuff. In an effort to placate their gods, young children were killed and buried in foundations of a house or public building at the time of construction. To quote from the Bible, in his days did Hiel the Bethelite build Jericho. He laid the foundation thereof in Abraham, his firstborn. All right, and we know the story of Abraham was going to sacrifice his son to God to prove his allegiance, and God stops him at the last moment. There's a famous painting by Caravaggio that depicts this sacrifice. This came from an introduction to Bible archaeology. All right, there's a reference here at the bottom of the slide. A little bit about pagan ideology, some questions on paganism. What is it exactly? Paganism is a very sweeping term, basically used to identify people that worshipped or believed in more than one god, polytheistic, okay, as opposed to monotheistic, okay. Mono in Latin is one. I believe it's Latin. It could be Greek. Maybe one of you can clarify this for me. More recently, in the modern era, and I'm thinking from maybe the Middle Ages up until now, paganism is really referred to anybody that is not monotheistic or not Christian, Islamic, or Judaic, not people of the book, as they're called today. How old is it? It's probably as old as human beings themselves. Is it anti-Christian? You know, I wouldn't say anti-Christian. No, I wouldn't say that. However, there are people who are, you know, anti-Christian, and who have used paganism or these other kinds of old ideologies of these, you know, what I would term false idols. Those people do exist, but I don't think it in and of itself is anti-Christian. You know, I think that that's something that's created by people, or something that lay in the hearts of you know, certain individuals. Certainly the elite peoples of the world view it as anti-Christian, and that's probably why they're into it. Is it inherently evil? No. Like I said, people can be inherently evil. There is a such thing as evil in the world. Some people are evil. Some people are not. What are some primary pagan deities? One of them is Baal. I'm also thinking of Astarte or Astaroth, or Ishtar, who was another fertility goddess, which Easter was originally a celebration of the sun, the celebration of fertility. Ishtar, East Star, Easter. It does have a pagan origin. Christianity absorbed these practices and these holidays over time. Are they inherently evil? No, they're not, but they are definitely, you know, a composite. Easter, Christmas, etc., and so forth are composites. You know, Christmas is not about the birth of Christ. It's about the death and the resurrection of the Son. Most religious studies scholars, anthropologists, and historians will tell you that they have the birth of Christ somewhere around 3 or 4 BC or AD. So after the year 0. In April would have been, according to leading scholars, the birth of Jesus. The Christmas story is, of course, you know, part of the Saturn myth, or the Saturn cult. We just came out of the Beltane, which is a celebration of the spring, the arrival of the spring. And I believe that tomorrow actually is, I know that tomorrow actually is the end of Ramadan. And Ramadan will actually end upon the sighting of the last phase of the moon, I believe, and then we'll go to a black moon again. So these pagan rituals, pagan festivals are all, you know, part of the religions of the people of the book today. Now, I'm not saying that these people are pagan or evil or anything like that. Certainly not. This is just the way that religion developed in the world. That's the bottom line. And then when Christianity came through, and then 600 years later, approximately, Islam came through. Judaism is much older than both of them. But when these two other major religions came through, they inherited the older ideologies, pagan ideologies of this area. Another thing that's interesting about Islam is that the prayer ritual, touching the forehead to the ground, etc., and so forth, this was originally a Christian practice that was absorbed into Islam when they took Egypt. This was originally a Coptic Christian practice. Very interesting. Excuse me, just having a little coffee here. This quote here is from Jeremiah 19, verses 3 to 5. It notes child sacrifice to Baal. So Baal or Baal is in the Bible, and if any of you have read the Bible, you'll be aware of this. Baal is mentioned in the Bible many times, and is essentially the golden calf that the Israelites were worshiping. Behold, I am bringing such disaster upon this place that the ears of everyone will hear who hears it will tingle. Because the people have forsaken me, and have profaned this place by making offerings in it to other gods whom neither they nor their fathers nor the kings of Judah have known. And because they have filled this place with the blood of innocents and have built the high places of Baal to burn their sons in the fire as burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or decree, nor did it come to my mind. This child sacrificial worship is inherently evil. I mean, it's certainly not right. I have students now, and I've had students in the past, both children and adults, where I ask, things like, when is it okay to enslave somebody? Right? Sometimes I get different answers. The correct answer, there is a correct answer, and the answer is never. I also ask the question, you can also ask the question, when is it okay to kill a child? And the correct answer, the right answer, is never. Okay, what we have a lot of today in the world is called moral relativism or relativistic thinking. It's the idea that morality is flexible depending on where you are, what's your time and place, and what your culture is. Some things might be viewed as right, some things might be viewed as wrong, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. This is BS. There is a such thing as right and wrong. Some things are good, some things are bad, and at the end of the day, you have to get over it. My only hope as a teacher or an instructor or a lecturer, whatever it may be, is that I can impart to any person the fact that morality is not flexible. Some things are good and right, and some things are bad and wrong. And what's wrong and bad was bad 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, and will be the same now in 10,000 years, 100,000 years into the future. Excuse me. So we'll talk a little bit about Baal worship today. Now, this is very interesting. I hope that you guys enjoy this slide, and perhaps you can comment on it. Okay, so how are we doing this today? The ancient gods have been renamed sexual freedom and a woman's right to choose. This religion is called pleasure and convenience. There is also a link to thebiblestop.wordpress.com that you can go and get some more information about this. It's at the bottom of the slide here. It's a terrific website. I was looking at it the other day. It's got a lot of really cool stuff on it. We live in an age of loose moral standards. I don't think anybody will disagree with that, where it's acceptable and encouraged for us to have sexual partners outside of marriage. Just watch TV. There's hardly a show on TV that does not glorify hunting sexual partners or having such relationships without being married first. Then when the seed bears fruit, we murder the unborn baby. One method of abortion is a saline chemical solution that's injected into the womb that literally burns the baby to death, just like the sacrifices to Moloch or Baal that the Canaanites did in the ancient world. This is just a modern version of it. Another one is to go in there with a knife and cut the baby up. Torture and cutting also was a form of satanic worship, still is. And then there's the partial birth abortion, which is totally insane, where they crack open the skull and suck the brains out with a vacuum. This was supported by Hillary Clinton as well, and some of her people. And I'm sure that you'll not have a hard time finding other feminists or feministic groups that will say that this here is, a woman's right to choose. The ancient priests of Baal are still around today, but they're known today as abortion doctors, and the teachers are our television writers and producers and others who promote this lifestyle. One of the high temples is Planned Parenthood, an organization whose sole purpose is to make modern Baal worship acceptable to the people. The founder of Planned Parenthood, her name escapes me at the moment. I'm sorry. I just...
Margaret Sanger?
Right. Sanger. Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger, right. Thank you. Margaret Sanger was an extreme racist who... And this is pretty easy to find. Quotes from her talking about how, black people cannot, reproduce properly and had no idea how to govern their own reproductive freedom, and that they needed to be controlled, and that she didn't want to contaminate the rest of civilization as well. She was an actual racist. Now, when anybody, disagrees with you and aren't on the same side that you're on, they don't want to talk about nothing or try to understand you, they'll just, call you a racist. Everybody's racist all the time. right? Margaret Sanger was an actual racist. Next slide. WashingtonMonthly.com. All right, check this site out as well. This one is pretty awesome. Another website with a lot of interesting information that you can spend a lot of time on checking it out. Ritualistic Baal worship in some looked like this. I've talked about this before. Adults would gather around the altar of Baal. Infants would then be burned alive, usually in the hands of the idol. It's a sacrificial offering to the deity. And as I've said before, the ashes burn. They rise into the atmosphere, the stratosphere, and then to the sun. Okay. Amid the horrific screams and the stench of charred human flesh, congregants, men and women, would engage in bisexual orgies. The ritual of convenience was intended to produce economic prosperity by prompting Baal to bring rain for the fertility of Mother Earth. We have this Gaia worship or Mother Earth worship, pagan worship going on today. This comes in the form of the climate initiatives and the constant clamoring that we're killing the earth, etc., and so forth. I think that George Carlin said it best when he said, you know, Mother Earth will shake us off like a bad case of fleas, a surface nuisance, and that it's pretty conceited and diluted to think that everything that the Earth has been through for 4 billion years, that 300,000 years of human civilization, or really the last 200, 300 years of human civilization is going to dismantle the Earth. I think it's just pretty conceited and silly to think that. Now, I'm no scientist, I'm no climate expert, etc. But I do know what I see, and I, do know what I've researched over the years, and that the Earth goes through cycles, just like people, just like civilizations, just like society. Earth has a cycle, just like everybody else. I do not think that the Earth is dying in the way that we have been made to believe. Nor do I think that a virus that kills less than 1% of all people who contract it, basically the same amount of people as the flu, is going to decimate the human race. What's decimating the human race is the people that are in control. There's about 2,500 billionaires in the world. Those are the people that control you and me. And now they want to control what we do, where we go, how we act, what we can buy, what we can have, what we can't have. How many people can be at our weddings? How many people can be at our church services? Okay, they want to dictate all of this kind of stuff. This is the real virus, is this stuff. It's not, a hard-hitting case of the flu. Some of you might disagree, and that's absolutely fine. And if you do, all I ask is that you remain respectful. I will remain respectful to your comments, to your inquiries, and whatever you have to say. I can promise you that. The natural consequences of this behavior we've been talking about, which is pregnancy and childbirth, and the associated financial burdens of unplanned parenthood, were easily offset. One could choose to engage in homosexual conduct, or with child sacrifice available on demand, it could simply take part in another fertility ceremony to terminate the unwanted child. This is all, I think, pretty clearly promoted today. I think it would be really hard to refute any of this stuff or not see that this stuff is happening today. The people that run the world, and I'm talking about the real people that run the world now, are trying to usher in a new era of paganism, anti-Christian thought, sentimentality, and action. There really is wickedness in high places in the world. There really is. And it doesn't matter if you believe this stuff or not, because the people that run the world, they do, and I've said this before, they do believe it. They do believe that they were born to rule a world, and that the God of creation was a wicked and jealous God, and that by the defiance in the garden, the original sin, the taking of the sacred apple, taking a bite out of it, etc. Right? Well, the Apple Computer's logo, of course, is an apple with a bite taken out of it, and it's illuminated when you open your computer. And I said this before. It's saying, hey, look what we did with the original sin. Look what we did by defying God. Look at how great we've done. Right? Okay, so this one should get some people upset. It's not my desire to make anybody mad. It's my desire just to educate and put out there what I have come to find. Now, I'm not saying that I'm an absolute authority on politics or on anything. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who cares and is trying to, talk to people. find out what they think, find out what I can learn from other people. So I'm going to put forth here, modern liberalism deviates little from its ancient predecessor. While its macabre rituals have been sanitized with flowery and euphemistic terms of art, its core tenets and practices remain eerily similar. The worship of fertility has been replaced with worship of reproductive freedom or choice. Child sacrifice via burnt offerings has been updated slightly to become child sacrifice by way of abortion. We also do this in other forms. I've talked about a soldier being a soul dyer or somebody who dies for the sun, right? The ritualistic promotion, practice, and celebration of both heterosexual and homosexual immorality and promiscuity have been carefully whitewashed, yet wholeheartedly embraced by the cults of radical feminism, militant gay rights, and comprehensive sex education. And the pantheistic worship of Mother Earth has been substituted in name only for radical environmentalism. Okay? What people deem as liberalism today is really not. It's really progressivism taken in an extreme direction. Thomas Jefferson was a liberal. These people are not liberals. They're not Thomas Jefferson. Okay? Liberalism is about the free exchange of ideas. It's about freedom of choice. It's about freedom of speech. It's about freedom of thought. But at every around every corner, every turn, these people are trying to limit the way that you can speak. Because if you can limit language, you can limit thought. That is not liberal. Shutting people down if they agree with you, kicking people off the internet, because they're conservative or they don't agree with what you agree, and because you think that you're the arbiter of truth and the arbiter of what's good. Is not liberal at all. It's actually anti-liberal. Okay, but a lot of the words that are used today, especially in the Democratic Party in the United States, has been used to hijack morality and to hijack your freedom of thought, your freedom of choice. Right? Some of you might agree, some of you might disagree. I look forward very much to seeing what you guys have to say. In conclusion, I'm just going to ask, how do you think this information holds up? Please let me know what you think. I'm always very open to thoughts and comments. Does it make sense? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please initiate conversation. Feel free. All I ask is that you're respectful to the channel and to the other people that are trying to have conversations as well. And I also want to give a shout out to all my subscribers. I really appreciate it. You guys really make it worth doing, and I'm very happy to bring you this presentation today. I hope it finds you well. God bless you, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks, guys.